What's up, people? In this video, spotted elephant. This is in response to Rebecca Loong. I can just tell straight up what your views on addiction are if your views on this mental illness is so harsh. Eating disorders are much more complex than you lead on. Sorry to burst your bubble, but is a mental illness that many don't eat as a way to self-harm. There are a lot of different reasons for it. It's an obsession over time, and lives aren't just made up of black and white thinking. I'm a recovering opioid addict, and my life revolves around my recovery in order to help others and stay clean. I now challenge you to react to this video. Okay, challenge accepted. I will, I guess, just like say what my views are on really, like, honestly, any kind of I don't say any mental illness, but like many mental illnesses. Like, just don't do it. Fuck, like, actually don't do it, really. It's just, why are you doing it? You're like, let's take anorexic people. You're starving yourself intentionally. How about you just don't do it? How about you eat some actual food? Like, why are you making this into a big deal? Really? Like, that's the solution. You don't want to? Fine, fucking starve yourself into an early grave. Like, what do you want from people? You know? Like, you wanted, like, seriously, like, what is the reason for doing this? I don't get it. Anyway, the opioid stuff, that's a little bit different because there is a physiological component to that. You will experience withdrawal symptoms, you know, if you stop, but those are only for a few days. And like, how about this? How about tapering? You guys know what tapering is? Where you slowly reduce the dose. Reduce the dose. Anyway, addicts deserve to die.
Hey,
100 views? Why are you making me react to these like nobodies? Oh, is this your channel? According to Jexy, Snapchat filter is her profile picture. 100 views. Oh, I know why you wanted me to do this. You just wanted me to like give her a shout out. That's why. You're like trying to manipulate me into like doing a shout out for this girl who's like trying to grow her channel. Fine, no problem. I'll do it. Okay, but next time, you know, maybe be a little bit more upfront about why you're asking me to do it. Maybe. I don't know. I could be totally wrong. Maybe this is like different to like what you're saying, but I doubt it. Fuck.
Guys, Jexy here. Welcome back to another video. So I want to give a warning. As you can tell by the title, this video is going to be a little bit harder to watch, I think, than some of my other ones. It's kind of emotional for me to even record, so I just want to put like a trigger warning out there. If you are sensitive to what other people say about drug addicts, you may want to skip this video today. Okay, so before we kind of get into what I want to talk about, I want you guys to just take a minute, and I want to give you some examples, and I want you to really think about how they make you feel, right? So let's say you heard a story about somebody who, you know, died of cancer. Or maybe that person who died of cancer chose not to go to their last chemo treatment that could have helped them live a bit longer. They didn't do that and they died. Or how would you feel if you knew somebody who was diabetic and they ate a piece of chocolate cake and it caused them to go into a diabetic seizure and it killed them? Or, you know, somebody who didn't have a driver's license and they get behind the wheel of a car and, you know, they crash the car and they die. All of these situations, we feel some sort of empathy, right? We feel badly for the person.
Let me stop you right there. No, I thought every single one of those people are fucking retarded. Like, actually, like, you don't have a driver's license, you go drive in a car, you don't know how to drive, like, and you die. Well, hello, you get what you deserve. Sorry. What was the other one? You get cancer, you don't want to go to your last treatment. Okay, I don't think chemo treatment is a good idea anyway. It's like leeches. It's like the equivalent of leeches. By the way, fans of mine, I'm already irritated by this video. I'm not going to be nice to this girl at all. I don't know if you actually wanted me to. Check out cancer-tutor.com. This is a site by an ex-cancer researcher who spills the beans on the cancer industry. Hopefully it's still up. Oh, is this not up anymore? Cancer tutor. Maybe it's not up anymore. Oh no, there's no dash. My bad. Yeah, this right here. Please, like, do yourself a favor and understand, you know, how to actually cure it. I'm pretty sure, yeah. So read all of this. Okay, it's very long, but it's worth a read. That's number one. Anybody who has cancer, I'm sorry, you're like you're an idiot. Okay, just fucking go to that site. That's number one. A diabetic who ate a piece of chocolate cake. Are you actually retarded? Like, are you? Also, trigger warning. Like, who are these pathetic people who subscribe to your channel? Sorry, but like, trigger warning. Also a joke. Yeah, so far not looking good.
Especially the ones with the diseases, right? Maybe the car accident one wasn't a good example, but I like using diabetes the most because diabetes is the one that is a good example of a disease that generally requires chronic maintenance to keep the disease in check. And so, but very often, we know people who have a chronic disease who maybe make a bad decision. And that one bad decision, whether it's their fault or not, can lead them to death, right? And as a society, we come together and we feel badly and we want to help the family and we're empathetic, right? Now I want to ask you, how does it make you feel when you hear that a drug addict has overdosed and died? It's not the same feeling. At least for a lot of people, it's not. And the reason I'm bringing this up is in a couple of hours I am going to a memorial service for somebody I knew since I was very, very young, who died because of this disease. The specifics don't really matter, and this is one thing I think is important for anybody watching. When somebody dies at a young age and it's not in a car accident and they didn't have any, medical issues and they have a history, it's probably from an overdose. But even if it weren't, right, it doesn't matter. The fact is they're gone too soon, right? That's what's important. But whenever somebody dies from drugs, it brings up conversation, right? And it's the responses that people give or the way that people talk. I'm sorry, it's very hard for me to talk negatively, but I think it's a really important topic. So there's two different things we're going to discuss. The one is the response from addicts, and then we're going to discuss the response from non-addicts. So unfortunately, I think, and I'll speak for myself, we see a lot of overdose deaths, a lot of them. And I think part of being able to manage day to day without that sadness weighing us down is we've become a little cold to it. We kind of are like, oh, there goes another one, right? When really, we shouldn't be looking at anybody's loss of life as just a statistic. But unfortunately, because overdose deaths are so high, that when you're in any sort of recovery program, with the statistics being what they are, you're going to see people die on a fairly regular basis, which is awful. So there's certain deaths that may hit you harder than others, right? A lot of times as addicts, we also seem to get angry at those who aren't doing well. Because we've...
What did she say that I wanted to talk about? Fuck, I don't know what's wrong with my memory today. Anyway, yeah, I don't I know people who have died from a drug overdose. What did she say in the beginning that I laughed at? I forget what it was. Oh, fuck, man. I don't know. I'm so out of it from something. I don't even really know. I know people who have died from drug overdoses. I know a lot of people. I'm, the part of town that I'm from is this kind of Pacific Palisades. It's in between Santa Monica and Malibu. And it's this rich white kid suburban kind of area by the beach where none of these kids have any problems. So they all do a bunch of drugs, and some of them get into some bad drugs and they end up dying. So I'm no stranger to this. This is not, and some of them I was closer to. But at the end of the day, it's a sign of human weakness. I'm not going to be nice to these people. Fine. I'm not going to be mean to them, but I don't think that what I need to be what do you, I don't understand. What do you expect from me? That I need to be understanding of their willful, conscious desire, or, the steps that they're taking to fucking shoot heroin or pop oxys. You're doing that to yourself. Are you retarded? Fucking just stop doing it. That's the solution. I really want to know why I laughed. Fuck, I don't remember. I kind of want to rewind this and see what she was talking about. Just really quick, just because I thought it was interesting.
Feel badly for the person, especially the ones with the diseases, right? Maybe the car accident one wasn't a good example, but I like using diabetes the most because diabetes is the one that is a good example of a disease that generally requires chronic maintenance.
Oh, that's what it was. Chronic maintenance. Having diabetes does not require fucking maintenance. Having diabetes is you have to work to get diabetes, okay? You have to eat like shit for a very long time to be diabetic and not do any exercise. You have to actually be, I'm so sorry, diabetic people who might watch this, you have to be the laziest of the laziest people with the worst of the worst eating habits to get diabetes. That shit doesn't just descend upon you from the sky, from the diabetes monster. It doesn't work like that. And to maintain your diabetes, you what do you never leave your chair? You never leave your recliner at home and just shoveling in spoonfuls of Nutella nonstop? It takes work. It's not an easy thing to do. Yeah, another thing, by the way, I know I know why you asked me to do this video. I know why you did. Okay, it's, whatever. You want me to help your friend or something? Or is this you? I don't know. Whatever. I don't care. I went, so when I was younger, I dabbled in some things here and there, and eventually I had to pay the price. And I went, I was not forced. Somebody leaned on me to go to one of these Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. And they were you need to go because you need this, you need therapy or something. I was like, oh, fine. And I just went just to appease them. So I went to this thing, and it was disgusting. I was disgusted with these people. I actually was. I was like, what is wrong with these people? I'm sorry, recovering addicts. Not really sorry, but this whole I have to admit that I'm an addict and I'll be an addict forever. I have no control over my life. I'm a weak person. You're admitting that to yourself immediately. What did they do? They they go around and talk and tell different stories about like what they did when they were fucked up one time. And it's like, hi, my name's James. I'm an addict. I just wanted to talk today about this one time where I was doing lots of crystal meth. I hadn't slept in 7 days, and even though it was the middle of July, I was like obsessively like arranging my Christmas lights on my house because, I was like seeing monsters and seeing demons and hallucinating from not sleeping, and I thought the cops were coming, and they asked me to like put Santa Claus on my roof or something like retarded shit. And I was like, what is going on with these people? How about just you don't do it? You know what I mean? It's easy.
Who aren't doing well. Because we've gotten recovery, right? And we're doing okay ourselves. We seem to forget the struggle sometimes. And I'm saying we because I don't want to say you, right? Because I think we all have different feelings. So by using we, I'm acknowledging that this isn't those people saying something wrong or this group doing something. Like, no, we all have different feelings, right? But I've seen even people who are addicts say, well, they knew where recovery was. They had clean time before. For me, that's really difficult to hear. Because although that's true, right? Somebody who has found recovery at one point in their life knows where to go again for help. But that still negates the fact that addiction is a disease, right? And a disease that affects your brain, right? This isn't a disease that like affects any other part of your, I mean, yes, it does, but the core of the disease is the way it affects your brain. Addiction is a disease that essentially makes you feel like you don't have a disease, makes you have bad choices, right? And so like, it's not to say everything is excusable. And I've explained this in some of my other videos. But the best way to describe how an addict feels in active addiction, the best way I can describe it to you, is let's say a using addict is in the desert, and they're for 3 days, they're walking through the desert, and they're in withdrawal, and they have no water, right? And at the end of day 3, they come to a tent, and on the table is a glass of water and drugs. Do you know what they're going to choose? They're going to choose the drugs. Not because it feels nice, not because they want to get high, but because their disease, the disease of addiction, has changed the chemistry of our brains, where it tells us that what we need to survive is the drugs, not the water, right? That's a very scary concept, and something that's very hard for people who haven't been through opioid addiction specifically to understand. My brain will tell me that if I don't take those drugs, I will die. It'll make me believe that so much more that if I had to choose between the drugs or the water, it's not even a question. So even if we have recovery, if we relapse and we go back out to using, our brains snap back.
Okay, spotted elephant. You're a very nice person. You are. And I know, we made a deal, right? I was going to do this video for you. You were going to do something for me. Kind of feel bad about it now because I'm like railing this person. So I guess I did agree to do this, but I don't like, I feel like I'm being misled, right? Anyway, I don't like that. Nobody likes that. Anyway, I can't put words in your mouth, but who cares? Forget about that. Like, this is further proof to me. Like, are you kidding me? Your brain is going to tell you what your brain is like talking. Hey, do the heroin. You don't need that water. Just shoot up. It's totally fine, man. This is your brain, by the way, in case you didn't know that. No, your brain is not telling you. Okay, and addiction is not a disease. Oh my God, it is not a disease. Okay, it's a fucking choice. You know what a disease is? The fucking bubonic plague is a disease. What else is a disease? What else is there? Chickenpox is a fucking disease. Okay, fucking polio is a disease. All right, you choosing to fucking shoot heroin or pop oxys is not a disease. I'm sorry. Sorry to like remove your fucking sense of significance from the world and like your purpose for living, but no, it's not a disease. It's you fucking choosing to do that. Your brain. Okay, what's your brain's name? You give it a name too, like Jimmy. Jimmy the brain says to you, "Hey man, it's totally cool. Just like, you can get more oxys from the therapist anytime you want. Just take a half. It's totally fine. We can take the other half later." Is that actually what's happening? Or is it more likely that you're like, I'm kind of bored because I have absolutely nothing going on in my life. I've already watched a bunch of Netflix today and I'm not really doing anything. So I don't know. Why don't I fucking pop some of these oxys? Sounds great. Okay, fine. Maybe that's simplifying a little bit too much, but hello, like, why don't you just not do it? You know what I mean? Like, why don't you actually just not do it?
Back into that addiction disease mindset. We're no longer thinking rationally, we're thinking as addicts. And I think we forget that. Look, the fact is that although relapse is not a prerequisite for recovery, relapse is a part of recovery for many, many people. There are very few people who make a decision to get clean and stay clean for life without any issues again. It's not common. It's not to say it doesn't happen, but statistically, it's a unicorn. Unfortunately now, with the fentanyl and most of the drugs, your first time using could kill you. So now we're at a point where people who are experimenting with drugs for the very first time are dying. Some people may even be dying from drugs that were considered nothing years ago, like marijuana. You're buying marijuana on the street and it's laced with fentanyl. So the first time you smoke a joint, you overdose on opiates. That's insane. And I think what we need to remember is, I get very tired going into the non-addict responses to overdose deaths, and I have some things to read. But so many are like, well, you know the risks when you start using. But do you? Because I don't know about anybody else. But first off, a lot of times people's first time using alcohol, drugs, anything, is when they're in barely teenagers. You're telling me that at 13 you really understand the full gravity of any decision you're making? Of course you don't. So to say you should never have picked it up, well, that's fine and dandy. But let's be real. I want you to really think, have you or anybody you know never tried anything, never tried alcohol, never tried pot? The second part of people who tend to get addicted are people who were prescribed pain medications for legit reasons, like surgery or some other sort of trauma where they needed those medications. Unfortunately, because of the way opiates work and the way that they impact the brain, they became addicted. Oftentimes, the doctors who prescribe those medications are not really well-versed in addiction. They assume if their patient has become addicted to these medications.
This might be the new stupidest video I've ever seen. I had given that title initially to Miss Nerdy Fitness, but then she was completely blown out of the water by Jordan Camilla in the video I did on her. But this is like, this takes the cake for sure. Like, this is just such high levels of cope. It's actually pathetic. Like, what did she say? Yo, man, my fucking memory is like shot today. I don't know what's going on with me. I gotta rewind this. I don't even remember. I'm so tilted. Let's see here.
Do you? Because
Oh, weed laced with fentanyl. Like this person, okay, so fentanyl, for those of you who don't know, is an extremely powerful painkiller that is lethal in the milligram dose. You take 2 milligrams, you take like a speck of this shit and you're gonna die. Okay, so what ends up happening, and the reason this is like a problem is because drug dealers will not necessarily lace their drugs with fentanyl, but they will add them to the I've only heard it being done in Xanax. I'm not sure if they do it in like heroin or other drugs like that. I've heard a few times where it's happened with Xanax and people die. So like that is not intentional, right? Like nobody's gonna like lacing weed with fentanyl. Like this person obviously like has no idea about anything, right? Like no dealer is going to lace their weed with fentanyl because it's going to kill you. And a dealer does not want to kill their customers. Like they do not. It's bad for business, and like the cops will come after you. You know what I mean? The only, I guess, I don't want to say the only risk you run, but like if you're buying, you know, black market Xanax, for example, on the dark net, yeah, okay, you run the risk that like, you know, some of the pills that you buy are going to be laced with fucking fentanyl. You run that risk for sure. But it's still your choice. Like all of this is your choice. You know what I mean? And you don't know the risks. I guess maybe if you're like born in the hood, you know, and everyone around you is fucking smoking meth, maybe you somehow don't know the risks. It's just like normal for you. But if you're like a normal person, like I don't know, if you're like not raised in like the most ghetto of ghetto places, you know drugs are bad. Like, how do you not know that? Are you kidding me? So listen to the excuses here. People don't know the drugs are bad. It changes your brain so you can't stop. You'll be an addict forever. You'll never change. Like, this is so pathetic. Like, actually, like I don't feel bad for people who believe this, because I honestly believe like the weak should fear the strong, straight up. Like, I don't want to say they don't, I don't like, it's too far for me to go to say they don't deserve to live, but they don't deserve pity at all. I mean, fine, they deserve pity in as much as any human being who is experiencing pain deserves pity. But I do not think this is the correct approach for treating somebody. How about this? Let's think of this idea. Let's say I had a cattle prod. You guys know what a cattle prod is? It's like a massive stun gun. Oh, I have a stun gun, right? And we're going to do stun gun therapy for these addicts, all right? And what we're going to do is we're going to put their drug of choice in front of them. And every time they take their drug of choice, I'm going to fucking stun the shit out of them with the stun gun. And I'm going to stun the shit out of them with the stun gun until the drug wears off. And then when it wears off, I'll let them be. Do you think that therapy would work? Do you think that would cure people? Do you think that would change their brain chemistry? A little bit of tough love?
I don't know about anybody else, but first off, a lot of times people's first time using alcohol, drugs, anything, an addiction. They assume if their patient has become addicted to these medications that they've done something wrong. They usually cut them off and kick them out of the practice. And now you've got a person who's addicted to opiates who has no idea what's going on, except for the fact that they're sick. And their brain is telling them if they don't find opiates, they're going to die. Now that person may not have any idea why they feel that way, but they're in survival mode at that point. It's the only way to describe it, right? Most addicts don't want to keep using drugs. It's not a want. Our brains have told us that we have to. And if you've never experienced the changes if you've never had any sort of mental illness or anything else that changes the chemistry of your brain, then you really can't imagine what that's like. So, just out of curiosity, to make this video, I went on Facebook, and I just looked for stories about overdoses. And I read through the comments, and I pulled some things out. And this is where I think it could get hard for people, especially those of us who are addicts. These words are hard to hear. Most of the time they're ignorant, and because people who are so ballsy to say these types of things generally just don't understand how addiction works. So, sorry, my hair's being crazy. So I'm going to read a couple of these. And what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to post them on my screen, and I'm not going to call out their names, because my hope is that somebody in their life has seen those posts and spoken to them personally, and that they no longer feel that way. Because it's very hard for me to believe that anybody could be this hateful in their heart. So this was actually a Reddit post. He said, I have no sympathy towards people who die of overdoses. And then he writes, I believe that people who die from substance overdose do not deserve sympathy when they die. Of course, there are people who tried to better themselves by going to rehab, but they should not have tried substances to begin with. And yes, I do feel sympathy towards the people they leave behind, parents, friends, etc., but I do not feel any sympathy towards the addict themselves. I hold this view because I believe that if you have no self-control over yourself, that trying any addicting substance is only setting yourself up for disaster, and one should realize the extent of the damage they are doing to themselves and to their loved ones, especially with the amount of knowledge we have on drugs and how addicting and life-threatening they are. Well, sure, maybe that sounds all fine and dandy, but when he says here, if you know you have no self-control, addiction is not about having no self-control. Addiction is about chemicals in your brain being altered. It's not about...
How convenient that you can avoid responsibility because, quote unquote, chemicals in your brain were altered. Okay, sure. Wow, that's like, can I use that excuse for all the time? Like, how about this? Like, I'm broke because chemicals in my brain were altered. Sounds good. I'm fat because chemicals in my brain were altered. I'm intentionally malnourishing myself in order to look like a skeleton because chemicals in my brain were altered. I killed that fucking 3-year-old boy because chemicals in my brain were altered. I kidnap women off the street and cut them up into little pieces because chemicals in my brain were altered. Okay. I cannot control my mind or body as I dial my dealer and tell him that I want to buy 100 Xanax from him because chemicals in my brain were altered. So pathetic. Now, I don't think one thing that she read in that post or whatever is that addicts deserve to die because they have no self-control, or they deserve no sympathy, right? I think what is more accurate would be to say people who believe that they have no self-control, because everybody has self-control. It's just certain people believe they have control, whereas others do not. This person clearly does not believe that she has self-control, that she has control over her life. Okay, you can choose to believe anything you want. You can choose right now if you want to believe in God, or if you want to believe in, that you have control over your life. I can choose to believe right now that I have to stick this straw in my eye, otherwise I'm going to die. I can choose to believe that for some reason, base it on nothing, but I can make that choice. I can do that. Just like I can choose, to do drugs or not do drugs, or eat food or not eat food. And if you don't believe that, then you're just not going to make it. And that's what I talk about when I say people who are going to make it versus not going to make it, is because what it really comes down to, it doesn't come down to money or looks or dedication or anything. It's just whether or not you believe you have control. Because that is the necessary first step to doing anything worthwhile in your life, is the belief that you have control over your own life. Or the belief, because that's really all you have, is control over your own life. You can't necessarily affect how events will play out in the real world, but you have control over yourself that you can attempt, at least, to control them, or to have things play out as you want. And if you don't have that, you don't have my sympathy at all. I don't want to say a weak person. I mean, you are a weak person. But if you don't believe that you have control, why should I acknowledge your existence at all? You're just you're like a non-entity at that point. What are you? You just exist. You're pulled in different directions by forces of the universe that you have no control over. Okay, bye-bye. Do what you want. Go fucking shoot your heroin. I don't care. What are you going to do with your life anyway,
I can't keep myself from shopping. No, my brain is telling me I have to do this. And nobody knows that they are an addict before they have addict tendencies, right? How do you know you're addicted to drugs if you've never tried drugs? To me, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And I guarantee you that the person who wrote this probably drinks, probably does something else, and is well, I know when to stop. I have self-control, so it must be a problem that you have. See, that's the problem. People don't necessarily look, because when he says, there's all this information and knowledge out there. Well, yeah, but this is a perfect example. Had he done any research, he would have realized that addiction actually changes the brain chemistry, in which case changes the way that a person functions and a person views things. It has nothing to do with self-control, right? But he didn't take time to learn that before sharing his opinion. So what are the chances that a 15-year-old kid who's about to try drugs for the first time is hold up, guys, let me check the internet to see how this may affect me 30 years down the road? It's ridiculous. All right, so I'm going to read part of this one. This, I think, was posted on a thing about Narcan, maybe. I hate to be the person who says this, but if people overdose and die, aren't they stopping the problem? I don't care what race, ethnicity, gender, or religion is of the person who overdoses. The decision to partake is their own, and we should accept that they knew the consequences of their actions. And then it goes on. Do they know the consequences of their actions? Yeah. But part of addiction takes away that ability to stop. Most people who are very bad off in active addiction would want to not use drugs anymore. They'd probably go to bed every night wishing they weren't addicted to drugs. When people are in the worst of their addiction, they don't want to be addicts. Then there's this one. I guess it was in response to a question, but she writes, since you asked, people who chose to use and abuse drugs or medicine are getting exactly what they deserve. It's their personal choice to start, and they know the risks involved. They overdose, oh well, let them die in their self-made misery. Stop the constant despair and emotional pain they are causing their loved ones. And then there's 2 other responses underneath, like in the same comment. One says, let the junkies die. And another person writes, let them die. They made their choice.
I'm not going as far as to say let them die. Like, for example, you know, again, this is slightly different than the eating disorder thing. I think, because it's very clear that like withdrawal symptoms from, I don't know, fucking OxyContin or something, that's a thing. You know what I mean? Withdrawal symptoms from not starving yourself, is that a thing? I don't know, maybe. Let's say you're obese, right? Withdrawal symptoms from, you know, I guess dopamine release of eating sugar, maybe. But still, okay, like here's the difference here. This person is saying it's impossible for addicts to change. It's impossible, right? That's what she's saying. It's impossible. Even if it happens, it's just temporary because relapse is imminent. Okay. And what I'm saying is it may be challenging. It may not be as easy as you fucking browsing Instagram, but it's not impossible. It's hard, but okay, so what? So it's hard. Do it anyway. What the fuck's your problem? Like, really? Like, who cares? And I think when people say, you know, they say stuff like addicts deserve to die, it's just because they're sick of being expected to feel sympathy for these people when it's clearly their choice. It is clearly their choice. And maybe it's hard for them to resonate with the fact that like they do drugs and like because they don't. Let's be real. Everybody knows the risks going in. Again, like I made that point earlier, but you do. You know what I mean? People don't know somehow that fucking smashing a box of Krispy Kreme donuts and washing it down with a large Coke, you don't know that that's healthy. You actually don't know. It's 2019, people. Everybody knows this at this point. You have the internet, you know it. You know what I mean? Even if you don't have the internet, like you see what your body's doing. You weigh 500 pounds. You don't know how it happened. You're addicted to food. It's not your fault. It's a joke. It's actually a joke. It's pathetic. And okay, these people are welcome to like exist in the same world as I do, but don't expect me to. And again, like I said, I'll feel a basic level of sympathy for you, just like I would feel a basic level of sympathy for an animal that I see is suffering. I don't want to see anything suffer, but it's your choice. You know what I mean? Like, what do you want? You know?
I almost have no words. Like, I almost have no words. You know, like if they overdose, well, let them die and they're self-made. Yes, a person makes a decision to use drugs. I 100% agree with that. And yeah, if you've never touched drugs ever, then you probably aren't going to have a problem. But would you say, like, well, diabetics are choosing to eat their chocolate cake, so let them die? Why are we helping them? Why are we going to give them insulin? Right? Like, it sounds ridiculous. Especially, like, if a diabetic became diabetic because they had poor eating habits. Right? You never hear people say, let that diabetic die. Why is it that you say that to addicts? So then, bash my comment if you want, but these people made their own bed, and the taxpayer shouldn't be on the hook to pay Big Pharma for these treatments when the junkies will just continue to OD over and over. The only winner is Big Pharma, who needs to be responsible for their own destruction. Well, okay, I can at least agree with that to a point. Simply saving somebody with Narcan is not the solution to overdose deaths. There needs to be treatment options. There needs to be more awareness about what addiction is. But so many people are against the idea of Narcan because it's bringing back... Do you know that there are actually people out there who believe that addicts purposely overdose so that they can get Narcan and come back and do it all again? People actually believe that. And maybe there's a rare story here and there of somebody who's done it, but I will tell you right now, no addict wants to be Narcaned in the middle of their high. That is not something any addict wants to do. It is not helpful. It doesn't make the high better. No. That's getting Narcan puts you immediately into withdrawal. Giving an addict Narcan while they're high, even if they're overdosing, watch most overdose people who get Narcan and see their reaction. They don't say thank you for saving me. They feel awful. They generally blame the person for giving them Narcan, right? Because they're all out of their minds. But they're not like, woohoo, now I can get high again. So I don't know why people believe this. Here's another one. If those fools want to kill themselves, being irresponsible, why go to all the trouble? The damn fools who just go right back out there and do it all again. Start giving drug dealers hard time that might slow it down, or the death penalty. Well, there's a lot of arguments that could be said about, you know, punishing drug dealers. That's a different video. You know, we need more deaths to lower the number of homeless addicts. Stupid people. I mean, when are these fools going to quit using? Don't get started. You won't end up dead or in prison. And I'm not reading anymore because... So the idea is this. If you're not a drug addict, before you open your mouth and start criticizing people who are, maybe have a greater understanding. That'll help you have a little empathy. No drug addict wants to be a drug addict. Most of us, if we could, would choose never to have picked up in the first place. But I can tell you that I didn't have a problem the first time I used drugs or the second time I used drugs. I didn't have the problem the first couple times I drank. That's not how this works. And to blame addicts for having a disease, again, I want to go back to what I said when we started this video. When you hear somebody has cancer, you hear somebody has lung cancer because they've been smoking cigarettes. Do you blame them? Do you say, why do they get chemo?
Yeah.
That's their fault. They should die. Or you find out that somebody has diabetes because they've been overeating. Well, why should we care about that? Or maybe somebody who's allergic to bees goes and plays in the park. Well, why would we give them an EpiPen? They should have made better choices. Those things all sound ridiculous. They all sound ridiculous. Nobody would ever say that. Not only do people not say.
I wonder, like, is this you, Spotted Elephant? I'm not really sure. If this is you, I'm sorry. I don't mean to like attack you personally, but like this is so pathetic. I'm sorry. This is like the most pathetic thing I've ever seen. Having an allergy to bees is involuntary. Okay, you are born with an allergy to bees or bee stings or bee venom or whatever you want to call it. That is not something that you control. Okay, let's be clear. Smoking cigarettes for 50 years, that's hundreds of thousands of choices that you made to buy the cigarettes, to light them, to inhale them many times. That is your choice. You get what you deserve, straight up. Everybody gets what they deserve in life. If you don't believe that, you think it's unfair or not your fault. Like, do you, what's the problem here? That she thinks that these people deserve empathy? Like, empathy or treatment is the thing? Like, okay, you understand that, like, treatment is not free. People pay for these treatments, right? So if the problem exists, just like any problem, and a business is started to solve that problem, people will pay for that, right? That's why treatment for lung cancer exists. Junkies generally don't have too much money. I mean, some of them, I guess, from nicer areas probably do. But yeah, you have diabetes because you ate a bunch of shit food. Okay, well, you got what you deserve. Like, what are you saying here? Like, it's not their fault or something because the brain chemicals changed? What a joke. As far as, like, what did she say about not wanting to do it or something like that? She said, like, addicts don't want to be addicts. They don't want to use. Well, yeah, actually they do, because they're choosing to use, right? At the end of the day, you are doing whatever you want to do. If you did not want to do it, you would do something else, and you would not do what you are doing, right? You have maybe things that you want to do, but if you are not doing them, that means that you have other things that you want to do more than this thing you claim to want, right? For example, it's maybe not the best example, but I remember watching a YouTube video once of this girl. I don't remember who she is, but she basically, like, she did this experiment where she was going to be shameless for a year, right? Maybe you guys know who I'm talking about. And the video that I saw of her, she was talking about how to grow your YouTube channel. And she's like, if you claim to want to start a YouTube channel and you're not making videos, like, do you really want to, like, do YouTube? Like, do you really want to if you're not actually doing it? No, you don't, because you're not doing it. You're doing something else. You're playing your video games, you're, like, watching TV, you're, like, go literally whatever you're doing. These people, they want to use because, or I don't know why they want to use, makes them feel good. Like, who the fuck knows? I don't know if I can calculate every single person why they do it, but they're doing it because they want to. Just like the person who is eating donuts is doing it because they want to. Okay, this all involves conscious, willful, intentional decisions. To deny that, you're not going to make it. Like, what do you want? You just want to, like, live the rest of your life as, like, a weak person? Okay. I'd rather choose to believe that I have control over my body and my choices and my overall level of health, right? And in my opinion, that's the much better choice.
But most people don't feel that way. So why is it that both addicts and non-addicts tend to look at overdose deaths as, oh well, the shame and the heartache? If we want it to get better, we need to care. Why are we going to help people get clean if we don't care whether they live or die? Now, I know, like I said, I'm a bit emotional today because I'm going to a funeral, and so when you see people's responses like that, it's crushing. And it's one of the big reasons that I have a channel, and I sit up here and I tell you guys that I am a drug addict. Now, I have over 6.5 years clean, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm an addict. And I go out in my community and I talk to other people and I share my experience, because we can't just assume that drug addicts are worthless, bad people. A lot of them are when they're using. We can take away the drugs and get them into recovery, and we have some incredible people. You have no idea how many people in your life that you know that are actually in recovery. It's a lot. It's a lot. People don't talk about it because they don't want you to discredit them simply because they're an addict. But anyway, I should stop. So, tell me, what do you think is the harshest part about, what people say about drug addicts? Do you have any personal feelings about drug addicts? Are you a drug addict who has become numb to overdose deaths? Tell me your thoughts down in the comments. I don't delete comments, even if they're not pleasant. I don't delete them. I ask to please share your real opinion, but just do it kindly. You're not going to get hate from me, and nor anybody else who watches my channel. We should have real conversations here. I know other channels say that, and then if you say the wrong thing, they delete your comment, they get snarky. That's not what my channel's about, and those of you who subscribe and have been here know that. I have no problem if you disagree with me. Let me know. We should be having conversations about.
All right, let's take a look here. I don't know. Is this your account? Let me just look here. Spotted elephant. No, you're like a young girl, huh? This person is not a young girl. Um, okay. Yeah, like, no, sorry. Like, whatever. I'm sorry for you. You have, opioid addiction. You took a bunch of oxys or something because you live in like some like rich white suburban neighborhood and there's nothing to do. And like your friend's dad is a doctor, so you got some somehow. Okay. I've taken many drugs in my life, right? Not addicted. I'm not doing them. Why? Because I choose to believe that I have the choice to not do them. I don't have this like victim mentality where I'm an addict, I'm a victim, I'm weak. No, I can choose to do whatever I want, anytime I want. I know that. And that is painful sometimes because when you know that you can do whatever you want anytime you want, or when you have that belief, if you're not doing what you claim to want to do, then it's your fault. The responsibility is entirely on you. However, if you're an addict, you have a disease, a fake made up disease that's actually just like less than ideal behavioral like choices that you're making. Anything you do wrong, oh, it's my disease. It's not me. It's my disease. Everyone, did you hear? It's my disease. So come over. It's time to be nice to me and give me pity. Oh, and by the way, like, did you guys know I have a disease? Would you like me to come and like speak at your school and give myself feel like positive feelings to tell everyone about how I also have a disease and being like having a disease is not your fault. Hey everyone, guess what? It's not your fault. So if you want to be a weak little bitch and get pity from people, then come to my meetings because we'll give you pity and we'll care about you and we'll be nice to you. You know what I mean? That's what it seems like to me, right? And as far as like all those other people, cancer patients, diabetics, I already said what I think about that. Like, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, straight up. Like, so anyway, I don't know, is this like your counselor or something? I feel really bad. She seems nice. Seems like a very empathetic person to me. Like one of these people just seems to like be very sensitive to the pain of others. So I'm sure she's genuine in her desire to help people or what she thinks is helping people. But this type of like retarded behavior should not be tolerated by people. Like, you put your foot down and you make it clear that fucking doing drugs is not okay, that's just gonna go away. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Anyway, that was a fun video. If you guys have any other recommendations for videos or YouTubers you want me to take a look at, let me know. Let me comment. Peace.